Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Game Over Edmonton. I am Ash. I am a new host. This is my first solo show. And what a game for it to be my first solo show. Finally, I don't want to say finally, but we get some revenge on the Ducks in a 3-2 win. The late goal by Leon Draisaitl, his 9th game-winning goal, league leading by a mile, for the Oilers to win 3-2. Now, at this midpoint in the season, I'm sure a lot of Oilers fans are looking for, I'd say, I'm kind of looking to the playoffs already, especially now that we have a really weak schedule going forward. And especially with like a lot of these games against, division rivals with the Ducks, we've already kind of not secured, but we're in a very comfortable spot, top 3 in the division. I think the Oilers are in a really good place right now, especially with a win over a team that we absolutely should beat, like the Ducks. So I'm thinking, at least, that a lot of Oilers fans are going to be looking towards stuff like coaching, stuff like lines, stuff like how people other than McDavid and Draisaitl are producing. And I think if that's what you're looking for, tonight was a very, very good night to be an Oilers fan. That's what you want. When we look at these new lines, because Connor Brown, he's playing top-line minutes now. That's Zach Hyman's spot. He's playing with David and Hopkins. That's, Zach Hyman, 50-goal scorer. What's he doing on the third line now with Janmark and Kapanen? But I think now is the time in the season for the Oilers to experiment, for Chris Knobloch to look at all these different wingers, look at all these options for what we can do come playoff time. And I think Connor Brown is looking excellent, absolutely excellent in that position. And I think Zach Hyman is bringing a lot of much-needed energy and playmaking to that third line, which I thought played very, very well tonight. I thought there was a lot of hard work from a lot of these wingers, a lot of these middle 6 forwards that we have that are trying to currently find a place in the lineup. Kapanen put Coles in. Perry, I thought, had a great game. Henrique had a good game. Skinner, I thought, had I think his first decent game in a while. He had plenty of chances, and I'll get into the to some of the issues with our fourth line later. But I think that if you are concerned about our middle 6, I think tonight was kind of a good showing for a lot of you. A lot of really great effort, a lot of good forechecking, a lot of good pressure. There were extended sequences with the Oilers, with lines that did not have either McDavid or Draisaitl on there, that had deep offensive pressure that almost led to goals, especially near the end of the second period. So this fourth line, the Oilers have had some fourth line issues for a while now. And given some of the, missed opportunities with forwards like Jeff Skinner or Adam Henrique this year, I think that there's definitely like a want from Oilers fans to see, these players play better, especially Jeff Skinner, someone who we brought in on the 1-year contract, and he's been, demoted to the fourth line, playing these bottom tier minutes. But I think that Henrique and Perry in the offensive zone had a good, almost great game today. Plenty of chances, drew penalties, did a lot of really good stuff. But I think a lot of Oilers fans know this, is that when it comes to Jeff Skinner's defensive game, when it comes to kind of this these fourth line minutes that we're playing, we're sacrificing a lot. We definitely are. And you saw that with the tying goal on the power play from the Ducks. The Oilers, the fourth line, they got hemmed in. They took a bad penalty, and that led to the 5-on-4 goal that tied this game, a game which the Oilers were were the better team, I'd say, for most of it, but had some stretches where they kind of looked very sloppy. Had some stretches where they didn't look too into it. I think that was definitely one of them from the fourth line. But when it comes to the offensive game, especially with, Connor Brown's chemistry. Man, his chemistry looks amazing on that top line with Hopkins and McDavid. And Hyman on the third line, I thought he looked great. I thought he brought some much needed drive and energy to captain someone who we already know is going to have a lot of drive, and Janmark, who I think needed someone like Hyman to kind of bring some energy to his game, who I thought has struggled a little bit. So I'm happy to see that some of the experiments were working. And then, of course, Leon Draisaitl with Podkolzin and Arvidsson. That's the hardest working line on the Oilers, always has been this year, and we definitely saw some success there. And then the experiments on the defense, I think, continued. And I think the experiments are working very well, but there is one concern that I have. Nurse and Kulak, two left-handed defensemen together, they play amazing together. The Oilers outshot the Ducks so much when they were on the ice together. And when Emerson and Stetcher were playing together, two right-handed defensemen, I thought they were playing very well together. Unfortunately, when it was Nurse and Stetcher or Kulak and Emerson, both our second and third defensive pairings, they were not playing very well at all. That was when a lot of the Ducks' opportunities were, a lot of their pressure, a lot of our mistakes, because the Oilers were kind of sloppy in positions. The end of the second, right after our, extended pressure, that led to a lot of mistakes. And I think that's a bit of a concern, especially going into a playoff series where you have two left-handed defensemen on a second pair, two right-handed defensemen, especially some inexperienced right-handed defensemen on a third pair. That is a little scary, and that is kind of a concern of mine, and I'll talk about that a little later. But the experiments are going well. Chris Knobloch has, the knowledge and the ability to tinker around, and I'm really happy, and I think Oilers fans should be really happy. Someone, Conrad asks, have we seen the last of Derek Ryan? Unfortunately, I don't think we've seen the last of him. I think he's going to be that 13th forward on this team until, someone like Noah Phillip comes up, or somebody else from Bakersfield comes up, hopefully, towards the playoffs. But for Derek Ryan, I definitely think, Father Time has caught up to him. When we re-signed him a few years ago, I was really, really excited to see that, because I thought he was one of the best fourth line centers in the league when it came to being on a cheap contract, defensively, just like outstanding, and he would always get breakaways. But this year in the last, he's definitely, been the Oilers' weakest link in the forward group. And yeah, I think Father Time has kind of claimed him, which sucks because I love the guy. I love him a lot, but yeah, there's no one on this roster and in Bakersfield that I see that he deserves a spot over. So yeah, I do think that is, I don't know if his last game, but he's definitely, I think he's definitely out of the core lineup for the Oilers from this point on. So, as we move into our second section, I do want to give, a bit of a read for our sister show here on Game Over Edmonton, Hyperdrive Hockey. Shift into Hyperdrive and get ready to have some fun with your news source for all the biggest stories in hockey, bringing a unique style of broadcasting and commentary with a Quebecois flavor. Hyperdrive Hockey combines top-tier hockey analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a damn fun atmosphere that will drive debate, make you think, and more. Join Max Van Hoot, Daphne Malbouf, and Kevin Larme every Tuesday and Friday, for your fill on the hockey world. Watch on YouTube on the Game Over Network channel, or subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon. Head to our website, thegameovernetwork.com, for more. Okay, as we get into our second period here, I do want to talk about effort. I think that effort is a bit of a problem on this Oilers team, especially when we're playing a team like the Ducks. I have little crudely written on the whiteboard behind me the season series with the Ducks. If you remember, in that first game, we were up 3-1. We lost. They scored in the last few minutes twice. Twice they scored in a tied game in the last few minutes. No empty net. And in this game, we were up 2-0, and the Ducks, after a certain point, they kind of came back, and there were sections, especially in that third period at the start there, where I didn't feel also confident in the Oilers' ability to hold on to this lead once again against a team that the Oilers should be beating every day of the week. And I think, especially when it comes to our top guys, and that kind of particularly includes Ekholm and Bouchard, who I thought played, about 75% of a great game, and about 25% of some sloppy mistakes. I think especially the effort needs to come, of course, from your top guys, your leaders. Those are the people that need to show the effort. And it's been quite a few games now where I look at who's the most hardworking Oilers players every night, and I never think that it's Bouchard or Ekholm or McDavid, Draisaitl, Hopkins. Now, don't get me wrong. When the Oilers need it most, in the third period, at the end, like tonight, they show up all the time. They give it. But that's not always the case throughout the entire game. There are definitely sections where I feel like, our top guys aren't giving 100%. The Oilers are consistently a team that slow starts in games, and it's not the most worrying thing in the world, especially come playoffs, but it is a very bad habit that has haunted this Oilers team for a long time. In any given scenario, take it a game where we start a little cold in the off the hop in the first 10 minutes, or a playoff series where we go down 3-0, or a season where we have to fire our coach. The Oilers are constantly digging themselves into holes that, yes, they can dig themselves out of, but, obviously as fans, we'd rather see them not do that. No, I'm not saying, again, that these players, these leaders on this Oilers team don't show up, because they absolutely do when they need to, but I think that this Oilers team needs to start getting into a habit of starting games. First 5 minutes of the game, that needs to be right out of the gate. You need to be dominating your opponent. And there were a lot of times where the Ducks had the better offensive pressure in the game compared to the Oilers. There were a lot of places where I felt like the Oilers were not able to get any extended zone time, and then the Ducks were. And I don't think that's a very good thing, especially on this Ducks team, where I thought outside of two players, outside of Leeson and Lacombe, the two goal scorers, but outside of those two, I did not think that anyone on the Ducks had a good night tonight. I thought outside of some, key takeaways that led to some chances, most of the Ducks, they were very immobile. They were very, they were bad. This is not a very good Ducks team. Like we've known this for a while now. And, the Oilers should not be winning 3-2 over these guys. They need to fucking kill these guys. They need to destroy these guys, You look at Nathan MacKinnon running up points on, bottom feeder teams. I want to see McDavid do that. I want to see Draisaitl do that, okay? I think that's what a lot of Oilers fans want to see. They don't want to see these, 3-2 wins over the worst team in the division. They want to see a team that is consistently offensively one of the best teams in the league be that team. And this year, I feel like the offense has taken a bit of a step back. And we can debate over reasons for this, whether getting older, losing Holloway. You've all heard that before, but that is again another kind of concern that I'm having, at least with this Oilers team in January. Mid-season effort happens to every team, but of course, that is just what I've noticed in this game. Alrighty, heading into our third period, I want to give a good read to my friend, host of Game On Edmonton, our daily news show for all things Oilers. Game Over has you covered after the game, but in order to get ready to watch the Oilers, you got to get your game on too. Game On Edmonton is a short form daily news podcast covering everything you need to know about the Edmonton Oilers. Hosted by Graham Mosimann. Get all your Oilers news in under 10 minutes, Monday through Friday on the Game Over Edmonton YouTube channel and in podcast form, which you can find at thegameovernetwork.com/pages/Edmonton. That's thegameovernetwork.com/pages/Edmonton. Alrighty, transitioning into our third period here. What do the Oilers need going forward? Trade deadline's 2 months away. Almost getting to the halfway point of the year. What do we as Oilers fans want to see from this team? What do we want to see from management? I think the Oilers have a real problem with our third pair that we did not have last year. Our third pair defenseman. Last year, we had one of the best third pairings in hockey, Kulak Desharnais. When it came to third pairings in hockey, they just had some of the best numbers in terms of shot suppression, in terms of like goal suppression, in terms of offensive zone, defensive zone time. They were lights out. They were amazing shutdown and amazing on the PK. And this year, with Kulak stepping up into that second pairing with Nurse and having amazing results and seeing some of the best hockey we've seen out of Nurse, now we have a third pairing problem that does worry me a bit. You know, with Emberson and Stetcher, you know, they're like Emberson, you know, he's quite young, right? He's quite inexperienced. And Stetcher is kind of like in and out on whether he'll have a good day or whether he'll have a bit of a blunder, you know? He's kind of always like has to make these like big defensive plays because, you know, he's kind of always like caught out a lot of the time. And I think that really worries me because we already have a very top heavy team when it comes to ice time. We already have like Bouchard, Ekholm, and Nurse gobbling up minutes, just, you know, absolute minute munchers out there as a unit. Same thing with our forward group, right? Like we expect so much ice time out of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and Zach Hyman. And it doesn't give, you know, you don't want to be playing these guys so many minutes in these regular season games, especially when so much of the playoffs is all about endurance, it's all about avoiding injury, right? And I'm happy that we have kind of solved our second pairing problem that we had from last year. I hope it stays through to the playoffs, but I am concerned about that third pairing, and I still have concerns about a third center or our fourth line, because those that is valuable minutes that we're kind of giving up. If we're gonna play Skinner, Henrique, Perry as our fourth line, you know, going forward, that's an expensive fourth line. That's expensive with Henrique, Skinner, and Perry is not league minimum, you know, like, and we're not getting good defensive results. What do you want out of fourth line? You want good defensive results. Are we getting them? No. They're our worst defensive line at like night in, night out, especially with Jeff Skinner. Unfortunately, hate to rag on the guy. I've always been a fan, but it's true. It's true. Tonight, when there were so many moments where, yes, our fourth line putting a lot of pressure on, great forechecks, great chances, you know, drawing penalties, and then we would get hemmed in our own zone, taking penalties that lead to a power play goal against. A lot of the good chances that the Ducks had were from that fourth line, which, you know, that's not very good. That's something that I want to see the Oilers, you know, kind of solve. And when it comes to like that third line center, you know, Janmark had a pretty okay game, but he also had Hyman on his wing. Are we really expecting Hyman to play a third line for as a permanent spot towards the future? No, and he didn't really have very good results when playing with Brown or Skinner or Henrique or what have you, right? This is something that I think you know kind of should concern Oilers fans a little bit, and I think that come trade deadline or, you know, Kane's return, that I think that we need to kind of, I say we, but Chris Knobloch and Stan Bowman kind of really need to focus in on. And I'm happy that Knobloch is experimenting to see what we can kind of get out of our third and fourth line, but the defensive issues there and the kind of lack of production from most nights is definitely a need from the Oilers, something that does concern me quite a bit. But on the whole, I'm still very happy with today's game. As I've said, this is midseason hockey. It's kind of a bottom feeder team. I think that there's a lot to like about this game. Draisaitl extending his point streak. Unfortunately, McDavid didn't. Tried with those empty net ones. Just couldn't get it. Kind of unfortunate, but what can you do? No, I think the Oilers are still in a very good place, obviously. And many of the concerns are just kind of looking forward to what the playoffs are, which I feel like is going to be a theme across a lot of my, kind of shows over, the next few months, coming into some more serious games, unfortunately. But I'm sure plenty of us fans out there, are just kind of itching to get back to that playoffs. I know I am. I know that's kind of what's on my mind watching all these games, is thinking about how, a better team is going to look against these lineups, this the structure that the Oilers have. Already going into our overtime segment, I want to take some questions, from the rest of you, from the chat, from the viewers. What did you guys think? What do you guys think about the game? What do you guys, want to ask of me? But while you guys think real hard about those questions, I've got a little bit of merch to show you. Got a little bit of apparel. Now, if you look this side, you'll see some Game Over branded apparel. Isn't that so nice? What better way to support something you love than by rocking it as clothing? Game Over's apparel line has dropped. There we go. It has dropped with 3 unique designs. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, want to wear your love for goalies proudly with our live and die by the goalie design, or if you just need another coffee to get through the winter, we have you covered. Designed by Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg. Use the QR code on stream. I actually don't have the QR code, I'm so sorry. But you can always visit our website, thegameovernetwork.com, for some merch, and you can take a look at our apparel store and help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. Already. Overtime. It's overtime. Something that we avoided tonight. Is there any questions, any comments from our viewers tonight from the game? I know, for me, I feel like I've said all I can say. Already, I think that... Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, especially when it comes to Jeff Skinner, he's got the yips, man. Oh, man. He's got the yips. You can tell on those 2 chances, I think, in the first period, he had bounced right over a stick. Second period, gets a pass, beautiful, over a stick again. He's obviously nervous. If you saw the interview in between the periods, definitely some nerves there that he has to I don't like get over, right? I think this game is a good step forward for him, though. I think this was like his best offensive game in a while, and yes, he still has those defensive issues. He always will. He's Jeff Skinner. He's here to score some goals. He's not here to be a defensive winger, but I think that this is at least a step in the right direction for him. But man, he just needs to get one. He reminds me of Connor Brown last year, and look where Connor Brown's playing right now. But if we think to Connor Brown last year, think of how long it took him to get that first goal, and you can tell that he was just struggling through the nerves. I think Jeff Skinner is doing the same. But yeah, I don't think that'll be all for me. If I don't have any final questions, I think that's all that I can give you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for joining me on my first show. It feels great to be here. It feels wonderful to give commentary after an Oilers win, especially after beating a division rival in the Ducks. Very, very happy to be here. Very happy for you to join me. And you will see me tomorrow on the